Hello everyone and welcome to another Fleet Signal video, or in this case, audio. My name is Alex and today I'm going to discuss the recent announcement from Spartan Games that they have gone into a partnership with Microsoft to produce Halo tabletop games. We'll start from the logo change on the Spartan website last week, as I'm recording this, then go on to the announcement itself, as well as some clarifications from Spartan concerning the Halo games, and also some things that weren't mentioned in the announcement. So let's start from the beginning. Last week, Friday, February 6th, 2015, Spartan Games changed the logo on their website from the usual Spartan logo to what looks suspiciously like a Spartan helmet from the Halo series, or if you like, Master Chief's helmet. And this kicked off a lot of speculation on the forums, on Facebook and elsewhere about, why they've done this. Some people thought that it was Spec Ops related, Firestorm Spec Ops, which is the 28mm game that's going to be coming out at some point from Spartan, based in the Firestorm galaxy. But I didn't think it was a Spec Ops related announcement. I was pretty sure it was Halo related, simply because Spartan Games has never changed the logo on their website for any of their own properties. They didn't do it for Firestorm Armada 2nd edition, they didn't do it for Dystopian Wars, they didn't do it for Planetfall, so why would they do it for Spec Ops, So for me, this wasn't a Spec Ops related announcement, this was definitely something Halo related. So yeah, over the weekend there was a lot of speculation about what's going on, what's coming out, blah blah blah. And then on Monday, which is yesterday as I'm recording this, Spartan Games dropped the announcement that they are going to be producing Halo tabletop games. Not like Halo Clicks, which you might remember from WizKids, I think. Which were basically clicks with a Halo skin, and you could get Master Chief figure, and Arbiter figure, and so on and so forth. Now this is proper Halo tabletop games. There's going to be a fleet game, there's going to be a ground-based game as well, and knowing Spartan, there's probably going to be some kind of campaign system to tie the two together at some point. So this big announcement from Spartan prompted even more questions and possibly even more speculation about what was going to happen primarily to Spartan's other games, Dystopian, Firestorm. What was going to happen to those games? Was Halo going to swallow up the company now, and those other games would suffer? And so Spartan Neil Fawcett, the creative director for Spartan Games, went onto the Spartan forums to try to answer some questions that people had been asking, to try to clear up some points. He basically tried to reassure people that Spartan is still going to be working on their other games. This isn't going to take up all their time. This has actually been quite a long-term project. They've kept this secret for the best part of a year actually. And now the big announcement's been made and stuff, but this is not going to impact what Spartan does in the future. But basically the points he went over were that firstly that the IP for Halo is still owned by Microsoft. Basically Spartan Games has a license to produce Halo tabletop games. There isn't any kind of license sharing here. There's no weirdness, IP weirdness going on. It's basically Halo belongs to Microsoft still. Spartan Games just has a license to make the tabletop games. Also, that Spartan Games owns the IP for their own franchises, Firestorm, Dystopian, and Uncharted Seas, and they haven't been bought up by Microsoft or anything silly like that. They still own their own franchises. They're still going to be producing stuff related to their own franchises. And also the question of manufacturing capacity has come up in quite a few places on the web, because Spartan Games has a bit of a reputation in some corners of the gaming community for, they'll try to bite off more than they can chew. And, we kind of saw this with, the launch of Firestorm Armada 2nd edition, where, the supply of rulebooks ran out, supply of patrol fleets ran out, and, people had to wait until, restocks came so they could get their stuff, especially in America. And also with Planetfall, people, who still right now, cannot get Planetfall in America because of one reason or another, distribution problems, blah 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 blah. So people have been probably justifiably, wondering, can Spartan keep up? Basically, can they produce Halo and also be able to produce all the other games that they make as well? And Neil said that Halo is a game that's going to be made in plastic. This isn't going to be a resin game. This is going to be a plastic game. And it's going to be also, the plastics are also going to be made in the UK. They're not going to outsource this to China. This is going to be made in the UK. According to Neil, actually, on one podcast, he said it's the plastics are going to be produced 2 hours from Spartan Games HQ, 2 hours away from their HQ. So So he tried to reassure people that this isn't going to impact the other games that they make. Spartan produces all their resin at their HQ, and this Halo game, or the Halo games, because there's going to be more than one, the Halo games are going to be produced off-site, so it shouldn't impact how they're able to produce bits and pieces for their own games. Another point that people have been asking about is whether or not the Halo games will be compatible with Firestorm, because they're both sci-fi games, they're both fleet action, ground combat, and so on. So are they going to be compatible with each other? And the answer to that is no. Neil said that they are distinct gaming products that use their own rule set and mechanics. They are not designed to operate together because they exist in two completely different science fiction genres. So the Halo game isn't going to be compatible with the Firestorm game. I mean, some people will probably find a way to field Covenant ships in Firestorm, or I don't know, Directorate ships in the Halo game. I don't know. Somebody somewhere is going to try that, I suppose. But the two games are not supposed to be compatible with each other. They're two separate games. And actually, on the Element 270 podcast recently, which both Neil and Derek Sinclair, who you might know as the lead writer for Planetfall, on the most recent episode of the podcast, they actually talked about how the Halo fleet level game is kind of Firestorm Armada evolved. Although I think they said that kind of slightly jokingly or tongue-in-cheek. But it does seem that Spartan has been thinking about how to take what they do to the next level, how to evolve what the game systems that they make, and the changes from Halo, or the improvements or whatever that they've incorporated into Halo may actually make it into Firestorm Armada 3rd edition whenever that comes out at some point in the future. Okay, so the final point that Neil made was that Spartan has been working with Microsoft on the Halo project since early 2014, and that, as he puts it, they have been careful to factor in its release schedule to complement the release schedules of their other games. So I think that the point that Neil wants to get across is that this isn't going to impact Firestorm. It isn't going to impact Dystopian Wars. Those games are still going to have their own products coming out. Those games aren't going to be slowed down because of Halo. It's just that Halo is this big thing that Spartan has been working on for the best part of a year. So as I already mentioned, both Neil and Derek have been on podcasts. They were both on the Element 270 podcast most recently, and Neil was also on the Meeple and Miniatures podcast talking about Halo and the Kickstarter that Spartan Games is also going at the moment for the Universal Modular Terrain System, I think they call it, which does actually look like a pretty sweet idea. And on those podcasts, they revealed a few little extra things about the Halo games that weren't in the announcement, weren't in the the questions, the clarifications that Neil gave on the forums and so on. Now, one thing that Neil mentioned on the Meeples and Miniatures podcast that particularly caught my ear was that the plastics are actually going to be coloured. They're not going to be all one colour. The Covenant plastics are more than likely going to probably be some sort of purple, and the UNSC plastics are going to be probably Battleship greyish or something, which I think lowers the barrier of entry greatly for people who are not wargamers themselves, because this game is going to attract a lot of people who don't normally play wargames. It's like a Halo tabletop game, Halo miniatures. This is going to come up on a lot of people's radars who don't normally play wargames, and this could be the crossover game that brings people into wargaming. I mean, some people may say, okay, yeah, X-Wing's done that already. X-Wing's a miniatures tabletop game, and it's pretty much wargaming. But as far as big fleet action games, big ground combat games, this could be the game that brings in the non-wargamer crowd into wargaming, and shows them why wargaming's awesome. And it's nice that the plastics will be coloured so that you don't have to paint if you don't want to. You can just field the ships as bare plastic, and then your Covenant ships aren't all going to be kind of a grey plastic or a white plastic. So I think that that's a really good thing. It's greatly going to lower the barrier of entry for non-wargamers who want to come into the wargaming hobby. And also along those lines, Neil's actually mentioned that the rules themselves are actually going to be tailored towards both wargamers and non-wargamers. That basically they're going to make sense to non-wargamers, but they're not going to be so simple that wargamers don't find any depth in them. Which I think is also a really cool way to try to bring in people from different parts of gaming into the Halo game. And actually, speaking of bringing people together, I've actually noticed that the announcement of the Halo game has actually brought together people from the various Spartan franchises who probably normally wouldn't go on each other's forums, on the Spartan forums, but they've come together and they're discussing the Halo game in the new Halo forum on the Spartan Games forums. So there's people there from the Firestorm forums, people there from the Dystopian forums, and it's nice to see this kind of coming together of Spartan gamers on the Halo forum. I mean, personally, I never really go into the Dystopian forums or the Uncharted Seas forums. I mean, not that those games are bad or anything. Those are great games. It's just that I don't have much interest in Dystopian or Uncharted Seas. Actually, maybe a little bit of interest in Uncharted Seas, but not much in Dystopian. I do like steampunk, but not enough to start playing Dystopian. So I mainly hang around in the Firestorm forums, and it's nice to see people from the Dystopian forums coming into the Halo forum and then discussing things and so on. Okay, so I've talked for quite a while, and basically I want to end this video by asking you guys a question. Should Fleet Signal cover the Halo tabletop games? I'm 50-50 on this. I mean, it's not like it would be a huge amount of extra work. It's something that I'd be happy to do. But on the other hand, I'm kind of, as I said, 50-50 on whether or not I should incorporate Halo coverage into Fleet Signal. Should I keep it just about Firestorm, or would you want Halo coverage to come in to the whole Fleet Signal project? Videos about the minis when they're released, and coverage on the website, and so on and so forth. So let me know in the comments for this video on the Fleet Signal website, on Facebook, on Twitter. Let me know what you think. Should Fleet Signal cover the Halo games? Alrighty, so that was a bit of discussion about the Halo announcement. I'm really excited for the games. I'm a big Halo fan. I've read the books, played the games. I'm one of those few people, it seems, on Earth that actually enjoyed Halo Wars, which to me was actually quite a good little game. So I'm a pretty big Halo fan, and I'm really excited that Halo is at last going to have a proper tabletop game with spaceships, ground combat. We may even see Master Chief in the ground combat game, and Arbiter, and the Prophets, and so on and so forth. So I think that would be really cool if they do make it into the games in some way. So yeah, I'm really excited for the games, and I cannot wait till they come out, which apparently is the first half of this year. So it seems like, if all goes to plan, we're going to have these games, we're going to have these models in our hands by July of 2015. Now, Spartan hasn't actually said that. They've only hinted that they'd like to bring it out in 2015. They'd like to bring it out in the first half of 2015. So there isn't a solid thing. It's not a solid announcement or anything. But from what I've heard on the podcasts, they've said that they'd like to bring it out, in the first half of 2015. So if that does actually happen, then I'll be all over that. I will be buying this game. I will be playing both, the games, both the Fleet game and the ground-based game when they come out. So that was a bit of discussion about the Halo announcement and the Halo games that Spartan's going to be producing. As always, leave a thumbs up or thumbs down on this video depending on how you felt about it. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be notified about new videos that come out on the channel. Also, be sure to check out Fleet Signal on social media, and also check out fleetsignal.com as well. Okay, that's about it for this video. Until next time, see ya!